All right, guys. Hey, Paul McClain here, and welcome to the Monday Morning Wake Up Podcast. I got my buddy Evan. Evan, how you doing, man?
Doing fantastic. How are you, sir?
Awesome, dude. Well, hey, I could not be more excited to have you on today. Monday Morning Wake Up. This is the purpose of it is to help inspire everybody to go out there and have the right mindset as they step into a new week. And I believe the goal should be, I think this is like one of those common goals. Everybody's got the same kind of goal, which is, can we get better this week than we were last week? Can I be better today than I was yesterday? And kind of two ways always to attack that. We've got the practical side to that, which we've hit that. I know last week we had, Matt Smith on, and he really, dived into some of these objection handling and rapid fire going back and forth. And then also tying in a lot of mindset. This is a very mental business, where a lot of times you can say, man, I feel like I'm doing the right things. I'm saying the right words. I'm booking the appointments. Like, what am I missing? A lot of times it's mindset, right? It's expectation. It's fixing your focus. It's minimizing distractions. It's heightening your awareness. It's becoming, it's interrogating your reality. Some of these things that when you get them right, you can go out there and level up your business. It's these things that, as you go out and become self-employed, everybody's different. For me, this was my first self-employed adventure, so to speak. Evan, is this your first self-employed position as well?
Legal one, yeah.
Mine too. I guess I could give a disclosure. The one that I used to be illegal would actually now be legal based off of the way the state has approved law. But so this is the first legal self-employed position as well. And so I think there's a lot of people. You're coming from a maybe corporate employee background, and so a lot of things to kind of figure out when it comes to structuring yourself and keeping your mind right and all these different things. And so the beautiful thing about today, guys, is I've gotten to know Evan really well in the past, I don't know, almost 12 months now. Evan, it's been 9 months or so where we started to have conversations and look at this business. And I can tell you guys this much. Evan's a guy that he can break it down and teach you some mechanics. You can say, why do you say that? Well, Evan wrote an issue paid on his personal pen, $70,000 in paid business last month. Personal production. I mean, Evan, just so you know, and you may or may not know this, you might not because this is your first career with FFL in the insurance world. Man, $70,000 in paid business would make you kind of like up there with agency managers at most IMOs. And you did on your own pen, but then also you started to build a business, what, about 9 months ago?
Give or take, yeah.
Okay. Yep. So in that 9 months, going from zero writers, just yourself, and really writing nothing, spectacular, under 20, bumping over 70 personal, and then also has a team that issue paid $120,000. So congratulations on earning your logo in the month of January as well. And so a lot of good things that are taking place in your business. And so, guys, he understands practically what to do. Also, on the mindset thing, he really has a good handle on his mindset, like how to develop mental toughness, how to see things in the right light, and how to operate at a higher level of a thought process. So we've got some great ground to cover today, and I would just implore you to lean in. Also, I would implore you to hit subscribe so that way you don't miss any of this as they come out. I just believe that everything's urgent, man. Sales, they're urgent. When I started to understand that, Evan, and I was in a house, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to give them a card and pretend like they're going to call me back. Have you ever done that?
Oh, yeah.
The client's like, hey, give me some cards. I'll pass them out to the neighbors. I'll give them to the people at my small group church. We love you. You are our guy. And you're like, yeah. And then you leave and you call your person that hired you. And how'd it go? Oh, dude, phenomenal, man. It was so good. Like, they like me. I gave them 19 cards, and they never call you back. And I realized that, man, sales is urgent. And if I develop urgency, I can help the clients develop urgency, the whole mirroring concept. If I could go out and understand that you might not come home tomorrow, this is urgent because of the fact that you might not come home tomorrow. And if that's the case, we need to act now because we don't know if you will or you won't, but we need to work off of the unknown and assuming the worst because your family's that important. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to podcast training. You never know, like when the right podcast finds the right timing. Like, Evan, have you ever been in the field and, maybe you're struggling with no shows in home? Maybe it was just you're struggling with like doubt. Like, man, I don't know if this is going to work. And you heard the right training at the right time. Has that ever happened for you?
That happened today, actually. So I woke up in Nashville today. I'm on my flight on Chicago. I'm in the airport in Nashville, and I started listening to last week's Monday Morning Wake Up podcast with Matt Smith. And you're going over phones, and I have a couple minutes before I board my flight. I pick up the phone, call a couple leads, and there was, I forget what it was, but it was some objection of call me back that I got right before listening. Well, right as I was listening with you guys, and then I had it right on the phone there, booked the appointment, and I'm going to be seeing her in a couple hours. So we got to hurry up with this podcast. No,
I love it, dude. Well, I mean, think about that. So when it comes to timing, so you want to subscribe because you want to get the podcast right when you need to hear. You might hear 4 days, and it might be just as good on a Thursday. But if you heard it on Monday, you would have booked that extra appointment, and you missed $1,000 because you didn't have the timing right. So hit subscribe, like it, share it. You let people know about this, and the goal is not to just have more content, more stuff produced, but I intentionally sit back and I think, how can we best serve, the people out there that are wanting to build a business, that are out there selling, serving families, self-employed. How do we best serve them? And so, Evan, as I sat back, I thought of no better guest than to have you on today, which is why you're on. And I'd love to have you kind of talk about, going back to, our first kind of conversations. What I understand talking to you early on was your willingness to listen and then take action. Like, you were just very coachable and trainable. I felt like I could challenge you appropriately and you would handle it in the right way, and you would actually go out there and utilize it. It was a benefit to you. You were looking to be challenged. You were looking to stretch and grow. Talk about kind of, that, what mindset did you have, and where were you at mentally and, financially, where you were just kind of the right person to have that conversation with, to make those changes. And we'll get into those changes, which will make a big difference on all of you guys. Cause I promise you, these changes that Evan made, if you make them, you'll have some great results just like he has. So let's start there, man. Let's unpack that.
Absolutely. So when I was writing down my goals for 2020, this is December of 2019, and I'm saying to myself, hey, I want to make more money than I ever made before. I want to do about $10,000 a month for my own checking account. And my buddy was talking to me, and he's like, dude, next year isn't 10-10, next year's 20-20. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got to do 20,000 not every single month, but a couple months in a row for the year of 2020 as far as income goes. So the whole mentality that I had going into Family First Life and working with you, Paul, has been just giving myself the opportunity to win. And that's what I talked about at conference. It was like, I want to get in front of you. You have this Calendly that you have open every single Wednesday. Well, before we were on like a first name basis, I would book every single week, even if I didn't have something special to talk to you about. I wanted to get in front of you, and I wanted to absorb what you had to share. Reason being is, in the past experience that I've had working out, I wanted to work out with the person who had the physique that I wanted. And the same thing with this business. I want to work out. I want to work with somebody who's in a very similar situation as to what my goal is, which is you, young, successful, ahead of the game. So, as far as a willingness to work and a willingness to listen, I knew that you were the only one, or one of few, but the one in front of me that'd be able to teach me. And it'd be very unintelligent for me not to listen and not to take action. And so I wanted to give myself the opportunity to win. And let's say, Paul, you tell me something and it doesn't work out. It's very seldom, far between. But let's say you tell me something, I take the action, doesn't work out. That's okay, because I didn't leave anything on the table. My mentality is like, hey, the what ifs are what you want to eliminate. And if you tell me to do something, that thing gets put on the table. If I don't take action on it, that what if is going to eat at me moving forward. So if I don't hit my goals and I don't have a what if on the table, that's okay, because I knew that I gave everything. I went for the jump. I leaped as far and hard as I could. If I came up short, that's okay, because I gave everything that I possibly could. But I asked you advice and you're like, hey, do X, Y, Z, and I don't do it, the blame's on me. That's my mentality with working.
Dude, that's so good, man. So what ifs do we need to remove in your business? I wonder if there's one what if you listening in today that if you took it off your plate, it would free you. Because the what ifs usually lead to like this regret, right? A what if left there on the table long enough becomes regret. Like, man, what if I would have done that? I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have hired my first staff sooner. I wish I would have got that office sooner, because if I would have done that, then I probably could have had this. And I wish I would have locked out that county before that other person locked out that county, or I wish I would have done this, or what if I would have done that? Then I would have been a lot further along, and because then I would have been able to sidestep this, and I wouldn't have had to deal with this. And so the what if left unattended, the what if left on the table, it turns into regret. The what if removed from the table gives you freedom. Freedom to what? To put 100% of your energy, emotion, and time in attacking that which you removed. That's what it does. Meaning that when we're like, hey, Evan, dude, you need to lock out these counties, right? And I remember that was one of our first conversations. We'll kind of get into that, but where it was like, typically leads is the first thing to help elevate your game. If you're like, I'm not seeing the success I want to see personally in production. Well, usually the first thing, given work is a given, you're going to do that. It's increase your lead flow, increase your buy-in, right? Put the feet to the fire, so to speak. Like, man, I got to go out and work and be more disciplined and less distracted, more focused in my dial time effort, because I got all these leads to work. And it almost kind of puts you in a place where you're like, man, I don't want to waste the money. I don't want to not help this family or that client. And it puts you in this position to force yourself to do the things you want to do. But dude, that might be one of the best things I've heard is removing the what ifs. I love the way it was stated, like get the what ifs off your table. Now, the other thing I want to talk about before we get into some of these changes, you said another thing that I thought was very, very good. And I thought about my career in this business and how valuable it was for me, Evan. And that was kind of getting your head to stick above the crowd. Because I remember when you did that, and you did it really in our first couple conversations. I remember talking to Marisa, and I was like, this guy, Evan, I like him. And by the way, that's the goal. The people that are in your life that can help you be more successful in that endeavor, you should develop that you should try to stick your head above the crowd. I mean, I do it with my pastor. I try to do it. I want to be able to get more attention time because I want to develop my faith and my spirituality. Somebody that can help me be a better parent. I try to, Sean, he's in this business, but he's a phenomenal parent. And I try to even grab some time because he's so good. He's got a daughter that's now 19. I've got a daughter that's 13 and 8 and 5 and 3. I'm like, dude, I need to know how all this all works, dude. I don't know. But I'm trying to get my head to stick above the crowd. And so maybe that's one thing this week that if you did it, that would have a biggest impact on your business, is getting your head to stick above the crowd. What are some things, Evan, that you believe somebody can do, even the things that you've done, that help somebody kind of stick their head above the crowd? And they go from the person that says like, well, man, that person just doesn't have any time. They're so busy, which is really scapegoat. When somebody's like, well, I would have called you, or I know you're so busy. It's like, you're busy doing what? Helping people. In fact, you know what I was busy doing? I was busy helping the people that had their head above the crowd. You were so low in the crowd, I didn't even know you existed. That's your fault, not my fault. My fault's not to go crawl on the ground and try to find where you're at. If you're laying down, my job is to see who. So talk about that, Evan, because I think that's a big deal.
Absolutely. Right before I do that, I just want to touch on the what ifs. Last point I want to make is that there's an unlimited amount of what ifs that'll come at you. You'll be talking to the 5K, 10K producer who loves to give advice at the office and tells you to do this, and all of a sudden you put what ifs on your plate. It matters who is giving you this advice. So your what if is different than Joe Schmo's what if he's telling me, giving me advice. So I just want to lay down on the table. As far as, getting in front of you and being that dandelion above everybody else, I came out I have great self-esteem. Like, I know that I work. I know that if you give me the right system, such as this, I'm going to make it work. And I know that I'm worth your time. So like, I have agents who are like, yeah, I know you're busy. I just need a minute. I'm like, yo, I'm busy with you. Like, you're my importance. You want to hit me up? You want to work? Willingness. So WIG, willingness, or do you have the W as work? Work, intelligence, gratitude. You got those three things. As long as you know that you have them, you can put yourself in front of anybody. So that was my attitude. I'm like, I know I'm worth it. I know I'm worth Paul's time. I'm going to be worth it as far as an investment goes. So I book myself on your calendar. I give you a call. I'm pragmatic in the way that I approach you. And when I tell my agents, yeah, I'm hiring like crazy. And yeah, like, I want to make time for you. Do not feel bashful about putting yourself in front of me. Like, I'm here to help you. And the only way that I can help you is if you reach out. So do both of us a favor, reach out, and do not feel bashful about that.
Well, dude, I think, when you say that, I almost think that, so I wonder if the person that, is saying, I know you're just really busy and I don't, it sounds like it could be possibly like a self-esteem issue. Like I'm below earning or deserving your time.
Correct.
But if you're working hard, your mind's right, and you believe that you're going to be successful, then you're like, this person needs to work with me because I'm the person. I'm the one that's going to take it to the next level. It's funny how you say that, man, because I remember kind of thinking that at the end of the day, I'm going to build I'd convinced myself I was going to be successful. And so when I didn't ever felt bad reaching out to somebody, because I was like, man, I'm going to be one of your biggest parts of your business. Like, I'm going to be a partner. I'm a business partner because I'm going to run. If you're running at a minimum, I'm going to run next to you. I'm going to keep the pace. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to grow. I'm going to do what it takes. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I think that if you develop a whatever it takes mindset, like I'm going to do whatever it takes to be successful, and I'm going to work my butt off, I think that could help you with, that self-esteem. Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. It's the one time when you're like, I'm not sure if I'm willing to put it all in. I don't know how much I want to get it. So you want to almost step back and not force that accountability. To your point, Evan, it's almost like the person says, I want to lose a bunch of weight. And then they don't have a personal trainer. And the other person says, I want to lose a bunch of weight, and they have a personal trainer. Well, the other person, they're doing whatever it takes because they know it's hard to just get there without accountability. They know it's hard to stay on track, when they're not getting measured. But the person that has that is different. And so you actually kind of like increased, because it's on everybody as an individual to do that. Like, Evan, I didn't say put yourself in the calendar. You just did it, dude. And you did it every week. You're the only person still to today that got on the calendar every week for like 12 weeks straight. The only person. That's never happened, by the way. Never happened. I've never had one person even do it half as many times consistently as you did. But all you were trying to do is hold yourself accountable. Because, by the way, every time we had a conversation, my goal was very, very much the same. It was, how can I, in this 15, 20 minutes, be as impactful for Evan? How can I, take the 14 years of my screw ups, failures, setbacks, struggles, and the things that I've figured out how to do right through all these things? How can I impart that into, for Evan, so he can go out there and be better this week than he was last week? That he can elevate his game. That's my objective. And he said, what do you talk to agents about when you talk to them? Let that be the foundation. Everything else will be built from that. It's pretty simple. He said, my main objective is to serve my agent, to serve them, to put them first, not try to give them what I believe and all, wow them with all the stuff I've learned and feel good about where's Evan at? And I've been there, so let me sit back and think, how can I intentionally help them? And that should be the goal for everybody. And Evan, I know that's your goal, as we've spoken about your team and agents. Like, it's an intentional conversation. So talk about, some of these things and changes that you made, and we'll kind of leave the topic of getting your head to stand out above the rest. But guys, it's stuff like showing up to dial teams at 7 a.m. being the first one in the door. That stuff matters. It matters. It matters not only because you're going to, have that extra edge, and edge is a big deal, that builds confidence as well. You knew that you were the first one there. But it also, when I walk into my dial teams and I see the agents that are there first, I want to do more for them. Does that make sense? Like, I just want to do more for them. Like, I want to help them with leads. I want to do stuff. I want to give them an unfair advantage. The ones that are showing up the latest, I want to give them an unfair advantage. The agents that call and ask questions, they don't call and complain, I want to help them. The agents that call and complain like it was the client's fault and nobody could have sold that client, I don't want to help them. But the agent that says, man, I messed this up. I'm kind of lost on what I could do different, but I really want to grow from but they communicate with the positive mental attitude. That levels them up as well. That takes them to the next level. The agent that says, hey, I know last week you told me to increase lead flow. I did that. And I got a couple questions because I've now done that. Oh man, I want to do whatever I can to help that agent. Not the agent that calls and says, hey man, I didn't hit my goal this week. What can I do differently? And I almost forgot that I told him about leads, and I start talking about locking out more accounts. I'm like, dude, didn't I tell you that last week? I told you that last week, didn't I? Oh, and then they get to, it's like, dude, like, how fast can I delete your number and block you? Because I got people to call, and this is stealing time. Then you should feel bad. You should feel bad about calling and taking time because you're stealing it. And you know you are. You're just trying to make yourself. It's like the person that interviews for the 19th time in the same day and they never go back to the second interview. They ain't even looking for the dang job. They just want to feel good about themselves by saying, I was looking. Yeah, fool. Why don't you just go eat some more Cheeto Puffs? Like you ain't gonna. It's a facade, right? And so, Evan, let's get into that. Let's talk about, some of these changes you made and really unpack those because it's made a big difference, man. You've had some great growth in a very short period of time. And I believe a lot of people would want to see the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing you told me to do, it was more a suggestion. I don't know if you were telling me to do it directly, but like, hey, relocating, you need some better leads. Reno might be a good spot. So I was like, hey, if Reno's going to be a good spot, Paul's telling me my lease up here in Vegas is coming up in a couple of weeks. Might as well consider it. Considered it really hard, and I moved. That was one thing. So relocating to where the leads are at. Lead flow is cash flow. So it's worth the relocation. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody's single, no kids. So I get that. I want to use that to my advantage. Then you're like, get an office.
Wait, real quick, Evan. So the relocation, do you think that you started to behave at a different level when you made that sacrifice and relocated?
Oh, yeah. Like the way that I would explain it as far as mindset goes is like if you're on a travel trip, everybody knows that there's only one thing to do on a travel trip. It's to work because there's no distractions. Well, if you relocate to a place just for the sole purpose of growing your business, it's like one big travel trip because especially during COVID. So like I don't have any friends in Reno. The only people that I know in Reno are agents and other people in the office. So I don't really have any distractions. There's no bars to go out to. There's nothing really to do there. Absolutely. I mean, it completely leveled up my business. And then you're like, hey, we'll get an office. Well, I've never done that before, but we were all unlicensed at some point too. So the best time to start is now. It's the first time for everything. So we got an office. Now I remember this lead coming in, and I don't know why it was an $80 retro lead, right? And I'm really intimidated about calling this guy because my credit card had just declined. It rolled up to Marisa, and it's like the first lead that I got. Marisa's like, hey, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, it's all good. I'll send you a vending the money and I get a new credit card just because I lost it or something. So I get this lead and I'm feeling like really intimidated about it. And I'm sitting there in my office looking out these windows. And I'm like, no, I'm a big boy now. Like I can't be intimidated. I got all this invested in this place. I got to call this lead. Maybe I wouldn't have otherwise, but I called the lead. And the next day I wrote like $5,000 in this one home. And that paid for the office for like 4 months. So it was like this one little instance allowed me to pay for that entire expenditure for 5 months. So maybe without that office, I may not have been able to pay for the office for 5 months. And there was plenty of other things as far as mindset goes. And Paul, I know you're big on posture, just posturing yourself, coming from a place of integrity and professionalism. That really helps when you start to invest in yourself, whether it be in your attire, whether it be in your appearance, whether it be in your office and your staff. It all makes a difference. And it's all here. One thing that you touched upon before is that this is a mentally exhausting or a mental activity. And you're totally right. Like Sean likes to use the analogy of, yeah, you go in your car and it's an AC car. You're not roofing houses. Well, roofing houses versus insurance sales, roofing houses, a lot more physically exhausting. But insurance sales is a lot more mentally exhausting than roofing houses. Roofing houses is pretty easy because once you do one shingle, you do the next one, you do the next one. With insurance sales, you're up and down, up and down. Now, what I use in the morning, you didn't ask me this, but I'll just tell you because it's Monday morning. I meditate for an hour in the morning. And as far as mindset goes, that's what allows me to, instead of going up and down, it basically makes me like a roofer. Now you're just going steady as can be. I don't recommend everybody do it for an hour right off the bat in the morning, but 5-10 minutes, as far as that mindset goes, and taking the time to pause, build up your self-esteem, appreciate yourself and everything in your life, make a massive difference. Yeah.
Hey, do you think you respond better to adversity, issues, challenges because you have a morning ritual that kind of helps fortify yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like 95% of my success in my life has been from my morning routine.
Do you think that about everybody in this business, regardless of, age, timing, that about everybody in this business, they're going to go through about the same things?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's the same objections on the phone, same objections in the home, same objections
in
the business. Yeah.
Every agent's probably going to have kind of a season where they just like their no sales are, they're a lot higher than what they should be. Chargebacks, Every agent's probably going to have a series where like, man, it's just what the heck's going on this month? Like, is this a month of chart? So everybody has that. And I think that's the one thing where, it keeps you from that victim mindset, because it's easy when you're going through something that's painful to try to, to sit back and say, man, woe is me. Is there something wrong? I'm having the chart. And then you start thinking like, these people must not. And the reality is that's a lie. That's a lie. That's distortion of reality. Reality is everybody deals with the same stuff. Anything you've gone through, I've been through. The difference is the response to it. The response is what either elevates you, right? That rebirths a new level of growth you go to, or your response buries you. Meaning if you respond in such a way, like you don't call the lead where you're kind of like, man, I don't know if I'll call it, or you don't go get the office when you know you need to, or you don't get the staff, or you don't do these things, your response, or you get a bunch of chargebacks and you're like, I'm going to get less leads this week. Your response to it either rebirths another level you could attain if you never had that issue take place in the first place, or it buries you. It buries you, it stunts you, and you don't grow. And, I wanted to say, God, dude, this is so good. We go in so many different angles with what you're talking about, and this is spot on. I hope you guys are leaning in and taking notes. This is something that it'd be helpful to listen to multiple times. I can just tell you, I do podcasts all the time, so I hate that I'm calling it out right away right now, but I'm just saying this is good stuff. I think you agree. So doing stuff that puts you in a place where you can start to affirm and validate the behavior that you need to have. Everybody has doubt. Everybody's, when they join the company, and they've not been a business owner or self-employed before, you've got that little voice in your head that's like, you ain't going to be any good at self-employed. Remember when you weren't good when you used to build Legos, or remember whatever, you just got that little chatter going on, messing with you. Call it whatever you want to call it, but it happens. It's like and the problem with that is this: when you let that start to influence your behavior, right? When you start to let that little voice influence how you feel and what you do, you're never going to go out and be what you're called to be here. You're never going to reach your capacity. And it's this simple. When you can layer behavior, it makes all the difference in the world. So when Evan goes and says, man, I'm going to go move to a different location, get an office, he's shutting up that little voice that's trying to keep him from growing and keep him from his capacity by his action, by his behavior. And now he's saying, I hear what you're saying, man, but I packed up and went to Reno, baby. I'm in Reno. I hear what you're saying. I'm in Reno though. I moved, right? I'm in Reno. And then, he gets the office space and a little voice is going, he's like, no, I'm a business professional. I'm an owner. Look, I got an office. Hire staff. I got a staff. I'm an employer. I'm an employer now. I got these counties locked out. I got areas I manage. I got to look at, guys, it's really this simple. It's acting your way into feeling. Evan didn't sit back and say, well, I just feel like I'm a business owner today, and therefore I'm going to go do this. No, he went out and behaved like a business owner. And then when the time came to call a lead, he was able to suppress the feeling by reminding himself of who he was based off of prior experienced behaviors that were now in alignment with him reaching this next level, opposed to looking back and saying, well, God, that little voice is right. Remember when I was supposed to do that and I didn't do it? Remember when I was supposed to do this and I didn't do that? And you start rehearsing and memorizing this new identity of, man, I say I am a business owner, but I'm really not. And who am I fooling? When anybody can do this. Anybody could do what you did, Evan. Nobody had to be special. It isn't that deep. And so, guys, I hope you grab onto that. Moving into this morning routine, Evan, I want to camp out here for a second. What time were you waking up before we started talking, honestly?
8.
8 o'clock. Okay. I'm sorry, man. I don't mean to laugh, but like.
It's okay. I was working on the shift. So like my normal sleep cycle was I'd go to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning and wake up at like 1. So going from 1 in the afternoon to 8 in the morning.
All right. Well, hey, the thing is this: if you're waking up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you're making $1 million and you're watching this, keep doing it. Odds are you're not, though. And so we talked about that. And then what time do you wake up now?
4:45.
4:45?
Yeah.
So think about that. That's a big deal, dude. How has that made a difference in your business and the growth that you've seen?
Being on the West Coast, it doesn't help, as far as the time zone goes, whereas the rest of the country is ahead of me. So, maybe like 6, you might feel good about 6 or 5:30, but you're 3 hours behind on the West Coast. So I knew.
Evan, you there? Okay, you're coming in now.
My bad.
You're good. Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So as far as making a difference in my business, allows me to come from a place of I'm ahead of the game. I'm not catching up during the day. I'm ahead of the game. I'm in the office 7:30, 7:45. First dial is 8 o'clock. I'm ahead of the game on the dial team. And just going back to like morning routine and that little voice in your head, meditation is a tool that I've used. And the main thing that it's done with that voice is it might, like, looking at me and the action that I'm taking, it might seem like it doesn't exist, but it exists. Like, guys, it exists for everybody. That voice totally exists, even exists for Paul freaking McClain. But with meditation, what it allows me to do is relate to that voice differently. I can be friends with it. Instead of it taking the driver's seat, I could put it in the passenger seat of my car and smile and then buckle its seatbelt while I drive this freaking car, because I don't have enough time to allow that to demolish my life. So that's what meditation's allowed me to do. And when I do it in the morning.
Evan, you froze again, dude. I don't know if you got a poor connection.
Appreciate you, Paul. Appreciate everybody in the business. It allows me to just set up so well to win during the day.
Well, I love that, dude. And I think at the end of the day, either you're going to control your day or your day is going to control you. And so there's a lot of things mentally when you could just say, hey, I'm going to do this in the morning, and the first step is waking up earlier. It gives you more confidence, like when I'm sitting there at 4:45 in the morning and I know that there's other people sleeping, I inherently just feel like I have an edge. I just feel like I have an edge. Like I'm getting after it. I'm already preparing myself. And so when somebody's getting out of bed, man, I've already been rolling for a couple hours. And think about that. You know what I mean? Like if I'm running a foot race and I'm running against Usain Bolt, which clearly would beat me, I don't think I have a shot. And some people start in this business and because of their past, they don't think they have a shot. But if I'm able to start the race and I'm 80% through it, I get to 100-yard dash and I get to start on the 80-yard line, man, I have some confidence, even though he's fat. But I mean, dude, I've got an edge, And so that's always something that I held on to, was I didn't have to be the most skilled or talented, but if I work harder, if I wake up earlier, if I do some of these small little minute, just tiny little differences, these small disciplines, these small habits, if I can get those right, then over a period of time, I'm going to build the skill and faster than them because I've got extra hours. So I'm going to make up for a lack of skill with work ethic, and that work ethic, guys, over a period of time is going to allow me to build a higher level of skill than the other person. And so maybe the one thing that you can do today, tomorrow, is tonight before you go to bed, predetermine when you're waking up and say, hey, I'm going to wake up at this time tomorrow. Because I know for me, Evan, in the beginning when I was self-employed, sometimes it was 6, sometimes it was 6:30, sometimes it was 7. It was just kind of like whenever I guess woke up. I don't know, there was not much intention behind it. And think about this. I'm trying to live an intentional life, build a business off of intention, but yet start my day without any intention. That's pretty tough. So before you go to bed, stepping back and saying, when am I going to wake up? And then also giving yourself, like in your mind, rehearsing, role playing what that's going to look like when you wake up. Okay, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to put my water bottle across the room. I'm going to have my cell phone there with my alarm clock. It's going to go off. I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to have to walk across the room to the bathroom. I'm going to drink my entire water bottle. And then I'm going to sit there and say, man, today's going to be a great day. Once I've done that, then usually you're not feeling like going back and hitting snooze and crawling in bed. You're not. Most people are dehydrated when they're sleeping. So they wake up and they're dehydrated. That's why you're fatigued and tired. It's not because you didn't get enough sleep. It's because you're dehydrated. Go pound a bottle of water and it'll fix it. Or you can get the rug. Andrew had that rug that he got at Amazon, put in his kitchen by his coffee maker. That thing just starts screaming at like 5 a.m. And you got to go stand on it to shut it up. So you got to get out of bed and stand on the dang rug. By the time you're standing on the rug and it sounds like somebody got murdered in your house at 5 a.m., you wake up with a state of terror. You're not going back to bed. You got cold sweats going on. But whatever it takes, and then rehearse, like, what does it look like? Okay, then I'm going to step to my office and I'm going to spend time in prayer, meditation. I'm going to, spend some time just breathing and getting my mind right. And I'm going to visualize the day I want to have. I'm going to start, seeing the top 3 things that need to be accomplished today. I'm going to write those 3 things down, and I'm going to visualize the behavior of those things being performed at the highest level possible. And it's just simple things like that seem simple. And I think, Evan, sometimes maybe people think it's so simple, they lose track of the effectiveness behind it. But just because it's simple doesn't mean it's not incredibly impactful. And so if you can start doing that, it'll change everything. And now you start to see yourself as a person that you want to go out there and be. And you let go of the lens of the past, which is coloring your future, because it's all you're focused on is how I feel in the morning. And you're able to take those glasses off and visualize a new experience. And your body doesn't know the difference between your mind or what you've experienced and what you visualize. And so now you're putting your body into submission and letting your mind control it. And by the way, that's what God gave you. He gave you dominion. It was declared in Genesis, like, to go be fruitful, to multiply, to have dominion. And dominion starts in your mind. I have the ability in my mind to tell my body how to behave, opposed to most people are just moved by their body and what they feel like. And so they're continuing rehearsing this memorized feeling of shame, guilt, disbelief, doubt, and all those other things. It's time to eradicate that by a planned morning. And over a period of time, you'll experience this calmness and freedom and knowing that you do have control. And see, Evan, I've always got that from you, dude, a level of confidence and belief, self-belief. And I do believe it has a lot to do with the fact that you spend time, really developing yourself and being intentional and controlling your mindset. And it's been a pleasure to work with you, because I haven't had any of those conversations where you act like the world's on fire. You've never done that. Dude, I get people that call me and act like, they've got terminal cancer, and it's an issue that's 10th of some of the ones that you've already dealt with. And that's a big deal. So Evan, if go through, and I know we got about 5 minutes, any other big points that you've made, changes that have helped with this growth? And then really I want to give it to you to kind of wrap it up with anything you want to wrap it up with, and serve, everybody this morning as they go out there to make this a big week.
Absolutely. Big thing, accountability. We talked about this before. Touching base with you every week was a way to hold me accountable. There's 2 things that have made me super accountable since then on top of that. One was hiring an employee. So it's really weird. It's really weird if I show up at the office after my admin. Like, that should not happen. There's no way that my admin should be working harder and longer than I am. So first off, that's really weird. And that just got me out of bed and made sure I was at the office way before Jasmine. The other thing is that there's an app.
Evan, you froze again, dude. I don't know if your connection's bad. Evan, the good news is you got everybody curious about this app that you were talking about before you froze.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
So the second thing is this app called Stick, STICKK. Now, this guy's like accountability on steroids, because you plug in your credit card, you plug in your goal, and you set a wager for yourself to hold you accountable every day. So if I don't text my buddy Eric by 5 a.m. every morning, it'll automatically charge my credit card $100. So you can put it at whatever amount you want. Like, it'd be 10, 15. That's not enough for me. Like $70K in a month. So I need something that I'm actually going to feel. Like $100, I'm going to get out of bed for $100. So that's going to hold me accountable. Now, after I'm done with this,
where does this $100 go, dude?
It goes to Eric. But you can,
Nice.
you can pick a charity or an anti-charity. So an anti-charity
Has Eric ever tried to like drug you or give you like a, like like one of those drugs that keep you sleeping?
Maybe. But you can pick where the money goes. So it could go to like an anti-charity, like the neo-Nazi party. Or if you're like a Republican, it'll go to the Democrats. Or if you're a Democrat, it'll go to the Republicans, right? So you don't want that money to go to them. So you're going to wake up, or whatever goal that you have. It's go to the gym for an hour. Well, if you don't do that, then your referee is going to look at that, and they're going to determine what happens with the money. You keep it or you get charged. So as far as accountability, it's really
pretty cool.
really easy for me to wake up at 4:45 knowing that there's no decision to be made. I got to get up. I'm not losing $100, and I don't want my day to start $100 less. That's all I got for you.
Awesome, dude. Well, hey, great stuff, guys. Go out there and put this stuff into practice. It's only as effective and it's only as good as what you put into place. You know, you've now probably had some new insights, some new things kind of brought to you. What you do with it, it's up to you. And so the goal is to go out there and make today better than yesterday. That requires you making a couple changes, tweaks, and adjustments to do that. So I hope this served you well. It served me well, man. I got some great stuff. I'm more excited today, Monday morning at 7 a.m. than I was before I hopped on here and ready to attack the week. I hope you are as well. So Evan, thank you so much for joining. Guys, make it a big week. Stay strong, be steadfast, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.